you're from the East Coast, correct? I saw it. Or
I'm from the deep South.
Deep South, okay. I saw some of your CV. I saw Vermont and like New York, so I thought it was.
I lived in New York and I got my MFA in New York. And I went to Vermont one winter for a couple weeks, Vermont Studio School.
Nice, that's cool. I saw some of your website. I saw the sculpture heads. Those are really cool. I really like those. I did a piece just recently where I did this doll that had like this absence of a face. Mm-hmm. And sometimes I feel like if you do that, it gives a chance for the audience and for the viewer to kind of like project themselves into the face or whatever they want to possibly construe certain symbols, icons that they have in their head, and they can project it to what they think that face should be, or to whatever they want to make it. It's almost like a blank slate, kind of, right? It's kind of like this like opacity of something. You could kind of make out a nose, eye, but not completely. So it's kind of like this ephemeral kind of like space, right?
Yes, part of the reason why I don't like to get too specific is because I think sometimes we do project what our ideas of a certain race or culture are, and then it just becomes this symbol instead of necessarily an experience. And it lets you just use your own imagination to fill in maybe the detail, or just accept it more vague.
Yeah, definitely. Like I felt like it's somewhat like figuration, right? But it's not completely representational, but it's like right on the border of where it like bleeds into that, right? Yeah.
They're human heads for sure.
Right.
But well, I think probably what you saw on my website was some work that I did when I was living in New York, and it was a wide series that I called American Heads. And because when you're in school, we go to the museums all the time, and we're constantly studying sculpture of the past, and it's organized in the context is within a geographical culture. And so I'm going to go study Chinese heads or Indian heads or right. Modern European heads, and you can kind of tell who these people are. But in America, we're a melting pot, and so all of those people could be American in all of those different rooms. And so I tried to kind of make heads that could be all of that in one, where you couldn't necessarily identify it as one specific race.
Right.
So that's why some of the vagueness is there too.
Yeah, and I like that because it's a perfect example of something being completely open to interpretation, and it really relies heavily on the audience to really have fun with it, think about it, have a chance to look over it, meditate with it, spark a conversation about it. What I also like about, I'm just referencing your website, so sorry if I haven't seen anything new, but that's what I'm looking at. I like how you put everything into a set pattern, like everything's in like a perfect category, which that's what art is, right? Creating this pattern and this consistency of something that you could kind of like placate into one certain area.
That you do enter the artist's mind or their intention. So yes, that's nice. Thank you. Because there is intention, and sometimes it's hard to have intention yet still allow the viewer to have freedom.
Right.
And sometimes it's hard to marry. So thank you.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, this is kind of different for me. I do talk about my art a lot, and I do write about it, but sometimes I feel like I'm forced or pressured to do it. I really don't like talking too much about my art because I want my art to speak for itself, right? So it's like, I want to leave that up to the viewer or to the critic or person that maybe hates my artwork, or someone that really loves it or something like that. Actually, kind of recently, there's a lot of people that haven't liked my on my videos or my short documentaries that I
I
have.
like your videos.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks a lot. Recently, I got some hate mail for some of my stuff. They're like, take your videos down. We hate them. They're
Why?
disgusting. I don't know. I'm guessing they're more of like the Trump supporter kind of right winger people. But
So
but I
does
kind
it
of look
bother
at
them that you're presenting to them a story that bothers them? That you're giving people, um, it's not even a voice, you're recognizing people.
right. Yeah.
That
Yeah.
bothers them?
Yeah. And it's I guess it's in a very realistic way. I try to be as realistic and as simple as possible with my movies, at least. I guess you could kind of see that reflection as well in my portraiture. But yeah, definitely, I want to give people a chance to speak for themselves. Yeah. I'm sorry, but I really like your sculpture carved heads, so I keep on looking back at
Oh,
those.
the carved? Well, I want to go look at your site now too, so I can be.
I think of like the Sumerian era, kind of like African-esque with the heads, or from what I've seen from samples of art from Africa, it kind of has a little bit of that in there, which is really cool.
Good. The work that I'm showing in the show is part of the difference is the carved heads are me working directly with the material. Those are carved plaster, and so it's kind of
Okay.
so the way that I kind of work with all of these is I don't really have an image. It just form. It's a process-based way of making art, not a, I'm not looking at anyone trying to make it look like something else. And I don't have anything in mind, and it evolves and changes. So the carved ones are a little more definitive because I can't go back and really make changes.
Right.
And so now, like when I work in clay, what I've been doing since I'm back home in New Orleans for 6 years, and I'm making basically additive work, and they're fired and glazed.
Okay.
So it's like the American heads were cast in a plaster family material and then painted. So the process is different, and they look different for that reason. But I don't know if it makes it a viewer a different experience. Maybe it's more of like raw material feeling versus like inside a gallery.
Yeah. I feel
Um,
like the thing I think about the Venus of Willendorf is like when I see one of these first heads on top.
but yeah, I mean, mine are portraits of basically imaginary people, and yours are portraits of real people.
Right.
And it's interesting. Like the series that I'm submitted for this show is haiku tattoo. There's a lot of on them, and just the way I work, how I apply clay. It's almost like I leave texture on it, even though some is smooth and some is texture, and it's kind of like that. You could think of it almost as like tattoos, like on how you've chosen to photograph
Right.
some of your subjects, that you see some skin, you see some tattoo, and how the skin makes up part of their character.
Right.
And how when you're looking at people with this kind of skin, it's different than seeing a pure, clean face with no marks, or seeing a person without any tattoos or scars or whatever it may be, or even makeup.
Right. It's like our avatars, right? It's like now we have digital avatars these days, right? Like with social media, things like that. We have our physical avatars with the right makeup, tattoos with like alternative beauty. Tattoos now tattoos are permanent, but there's so much in the world of tattoo like removal, like with lasering and things like that, that like tattooage is kind of losing its like permanence. But yeah, it's all those things, right, that we give to different, not masks, because masks, I feel like it's more of like a hard veil, but it's all these things that we want to add to ourselves, right? That we want to symbolize or not.
What? So the laser actually does remove tattoo. Don't you get some scarring from that?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. It's not like a perfect like wipe off, and you can't do like solid stuff right away, and you have to go back in for like multiple appointments. Probably have to go a couple years for something really thick. You got to go in once a month and have it done. But there's people that I've seen that had really thick tattoos, and after going for many sessions, they're pretty close back to zero, or back to like what the skin used to look like.
And
So
what do you think their reasons of wanting to get them removed are?
right. But once I've been seeing more of that, I'm like, wait, I was like, tattoos are kind of losing like their permanence, right? Like if that industry is starting to get bigger, and they're starting to do more of what they do, right? So it's like, oh, tattoos aren't that permanent anymore. So, right.
Yes, it becomes the negative space. You start erasing your drawing.
Wait, so right now you're in New Orleans?
Yeah, I live in New Orleans. I'm from
Okay.
New Orleans.
How's it over there with the COVID situation? And
High, growing.
yeah, oh my gosh.
Yeah, we're in per capita, we're at the top of the list of maybe deaths, maybe not cases, but maybe deaths.
Okay.
But so I don't know. Y'all don't have a very large population in general, right?
Yeah, so what we do have for infection rate um, kind of is more serious when you realize like what it is per capita.
Yeah.
So it's, and it's kind of proportional to what we have here for population, and we don't have like a lot of hospitals or anything like that. It's not like a big city, right? That has like a lot of hospitals or like a lot of different places or facilities or people that are available. Because there's still like a lot of rural areas out here where it's like straight up desert. Cell phone doesn't work in certain areas. But we're doing okay. It's already July, right? So we're 5 months into it. I think it's a lot better than what I thought was going to happen in March. Me and my friends and my family were kind of scared about what was going on, right? There was this like heightened sense of paranoia, nervousness. It's like, what the hell is going on? Like,
Has COVID affected your art making?
Not really. And to be honest, I mean, I understand, and it is really good to see people doing COVID related art and to kind of present their own situations or to amplify what other people are going through for COVID-19. But there's just so many people doing COVID type of art. I'm like, I can't really find my space in something where a lot of people are also doing it. I don't know. Sometimes I don't like to follow the pack on stuff. So I guess if I was really inspired to do it with this like authentic notion in my heart, that I really wanted to do it, but I don't really feel.
I think it was something so fresh and new. It's really hard to make a metaphor of it, and so maybe a lot of the work is really literal right now because
Yeah.
it's the mask, the physical. But
Yes.
for it to sink in and it to become more of a metaphorical story and experience, I think that takes a little more time.
Yeah, it does. It does. And I've seen some art where people, like they're doing their same thing. I saw like a painter do his thing, and then he added like some rolls of like toilet paper in there, and I'm like, yeah, I guess that's a signifier for what's going on. But it's just so soon to kind of like evaluate the impact of what's going on, because it could be a lot more sinister than what we even see right now, and what the implications of people losing their unemployment, losing that $600, that $600 bonus that people are having on their unemployment. Now it's going to start hurting. So we'll see. we'll see what happens. But yes, exactly. Just like you said, I think there's some artists that are kind of like doing art right away and using the like immediate icons and symbols of what
Literal.
happened. And toilet paper or masks in their art. Yeah, that's cool, but like now everyone's doing it, right? And we all want to do something fresh, right?
I think movies, you know, I'm sure a lot of screenplays are being written right now,
Right.
but it's kind of like they're not going to be able to be made for a good year because of distancing. And so then how's the story going to change then? Because we don't know how the stories, you know, the election is coming up. How is that? Who knows how it's going to end, that the election? And so that will definitely put twists and turns on movie making if they're writing, you know, like.
Definitely. Yeah, there's a lot of consequences to that.
I guess like painting, we could make painting the whole time, or photography.
Yeah. What's
Mhm.
cool is I hope that there's a lot of artists that are born out of this situation and all this chaos, right? Because from great pain comes great art sometimes, right?
I try not to buy into that.
Right. No, yeah, that's true too. There's all, I mean, there's no set rules, right, to art.
I do not work well under negativity or deprivation, or that is not the inspiration for me. But
Right.
I know
Definitely.
that some artists do.
Yeah, right. There's no rules to art, right? There's no set rules.
Yeah.
I mean, I had a chance, I was gonna go for my MFA, like for art studio, and I just started getting booked for shows and stuff like that, and I was really close to doing it, and then I was like, you know what, I've I really feel like there's really no set path in for me to do this. I mean, it'd be great for me to go to art school. I think it definitely like wouldn't hurt for me to go to art school. There'd probably be like a lot of great things that would happen from it. But you know, someone that I'm not like a millionaire that can easily pay for stuff like that. So if I can do it like the way that I'm doing it right now, then you know.
I think it's nice to meet other people in art school that are having, you know, searching for similar, um I don't know if it's answers, but trying to understand art of the past, art and making and life.
Yeah.
um I don't know.
I feel like I don't know. I feel like I'm an artist sometimes, and sometimes I feel like more of a creator, or just I don't know. I feel like I don't really wear the hat too much, and I really don't even like to label myself
Me
as an
too.
artist.
I
But we
always
have to, right, for like our statements and like to apply for grants and stuff, right?
But I never say it's really hard to say, what do you do? I'm an artist. I don't
Yeah,
identify. I mean, I identify as a creator and a maker of things, some functional, some non-functional.
yeah,
But, um, artist is a big word.
definitely.
It's it's like engineer, you know, like what's a there's I think a level I think a lot of people think being an artist, it's like I think, and I'm sure you agree, like artists take what they do very seriously and their subject matter very seriously. And a lot of people, you know, so there's a responsibility with that, I think, of doing it well and really um, trying to do something that hasn't been done in it your own way, even
Yeah,
if it's just a technical thing that makes it different with the same subject matter, maybe, or um, it's problem solving.
yeah, right. There's those there's those positions and those careers, right, where they're very like objective. You take a certain amount of exams and pass a certain amount of curriculum, and then you're a scientist, or you're a doctor. But for art, right, it's like what constitutes as that one day that, yes, I've now made it as an artist? Is it after you have 100 shows, or is it after you have 2 shows? Who knows, right?
What so back to your work, what do you, when you, like when you're, say, taking a photograph, not a video, let's say a photograph, is it something you see in that specific person that you want to capture? Or if you work in a series, is it like they're part of the bigger puzzle, they're one piece of the puzzle for the whole puzzle? Or
Yeah. Well, my current project focuses mainly on the Latino community and the person of color community here in Albuquerque. So I have kind of narrowed the category. Yeah, so I do try to find people that fit that category. That's who I am. That's how I identify as a Mexican American. It's a reflection of myself. So it's really more of like a personal narrative too. So it's people that are friends and family also that are some of my subjects. So
it's sort of like their family tree roots
yeah,
to tree.
yeah, you could kind of think about like that, right? It's
one branch and you're showing other branches on the same tree.
yeah, yeah. I can see it like that. It's like writing an autobiography without the words, right? Trying to do it with pictures, right? I mean, a lot of the people represent urban culture, street culture, and people that live in like the marginalized areas of Albuquerque. Some don't fit that category at all. Some are just friends that I've met while like in college and stuff like that, that we have the similarities of just sharing the same culture. But for some of my more compelling portraits, there's a gentleman named Carlos. He has 2 different colored eyes. I saw
video.
What's up?
I think I watched his video.
Yeah. I just found him one day actually at my campus. I saw his eyes and I'm like, oh my God, his eyes are awesome. I was like, I gotta take your portrait. And he said no at first, but he gave me his phone number and his email. So I just kept bugging him for months and months and months. And then I just finally one day he said that it was okay. And I'm glad that I was able to show his story, because his story, I think, reflects a very common narrative in Albuquerque of, there's some families that are very fragmented, that illustrate different social problems that are a lot more complex than what people think and what they would like to oversimplify. So yeah, that's, it's also just simply just doing documentaries on people that I just think are really cool, and then of just shit that I want to see myself. So,
So it's kind of like you chose to kind of make it not every person in the world, people similar or from some, both other Mexican Americans or
yeah,
in the Southwest. That was your way of at least making it a group that you could really, it's a way to explore a specific, to really go deep in one area.
Yeah. Also, it's because I can't, just to be honest, right? We can't go for grants. We can't make a statement. We can't apply for certain grants and shows without kind of putting something into a box, right? So we have to deal with those rules too, right? If we want to start to.
It's really fun to work that way, though, in a theme, because then you don't. If you're like, okay, I'm going to do 10 of one thing or 5 of or 20, then you can explore each one and not feel like you have to do that one and get all of it in.
Exactly.
You can do all of it. It's a nice way to explore a certain subject thoroughly, I think.
Definitely. And I mean, I still consider myself an emerging artist. I've only been doing like shows and things like this only for about 4 or 5 years. So I mean, someone like you that has been doing this a long, long time. Someone that's more
I'm
like
older than you, but I'm certainly less exposed than you.
um,
I'm not active. I've kind of gave up, to tell you the truth, on showing.
okay. Okay.
Got a little cynical in New York, but I didn't give up on making. But I probably haven't explored and experimented to the degree I would like, or to the degree that would be really fun and stimulating. But yeah, I got a little cynical. I don't know if we want to talk about that.
About shows and how they kind of,
Well, and just being shown and what collectors think is worthy and what
yeah, right. And that's where,
want to collect and how they find value in the work. And I think a lot of collectors really have no clue and don't even like a lot. They just do what they're told to build
yeah.
a, and that's how artists, like their pedigree has to start somewhere, to it's all just kind of, someone who has money to buy doesn't mean they have a good eye or even hire a good buyer that has a good eye.
Right. Right.
And it goes to the top, to museums and to auction. It's very top heavy, and so it just leaves, I think, the smaller artist, just dealing in like very, very low range buyers, low budget buyers.
Yeah. Right. There's that world, that formal world that some artists decide that they want to navigate. Some don't want to, right? Some don't care about showing at all, or and they're totally cool with that, right? Right. But there comes to a time to where you wanna present your stuff, right? And you want to see how it goes, and there's that part of us that's human, right? For me, I want to know if people like my art, or if they hate it, right? If they hate my art, I find that actually very interesting too, because I'd like to know what moves people to find my art something that makes them really angry, right?
Yeah, like any feedback is good feedback, really.
Oh yeah, for sure, right? Yeah, yeah, definitely. But yeah, it's a hard world to navigate once you start talking about the institutions like museums and starting to exhibit, and different galleries that want to start to
Galleries are,
represent.
I mean, like not all galleries, but should we click, or when should we flip over?
Oh yeah, yeah, sure. Yeah. So we were talking about the formal institutions and whether an artist decides that they want to take that route, right? Um,
Or if they even have a choice.
right. Yeah. Right.
Were you always into photography, or what was your?
Yeah, I
What
was.
do you think about it? Is photography new, or your art, your vision and what you want to say?
Yeah, I was always into movies, which is photography, right? Because there's a lot of people that forget that, like, movies are pictures, and they're still images. They're just thousands of still images that are strung across with each other, that's supplemented with sound, right? um, and movies always fascinated me, just like movies fascinate a lot of people, right? um, I felt like it's the closest thing that we have to time travel, is what we can view in pictures, and having that sound to mediate with it. And it just fascinated me, and that's when I just started screenwriting for a little bit, and then I realized, you know what, I'm going away from the visual portion, which is what I really wanted to start with, and that's when I started photography, um, doing portraiture and stuff like that. But yeah, it all started just from this connection and this relationship that I have with movies. I just find them very fascinating. I'm very grateful, and I feel like I'm privileged to live in a human timeline where, like, pictures exist, right? So
It's been nice chatting.
definitely. It was a good conversation. It was nice meeting you.
Yeah, nice meeting you. I miss having the interactive chats with other artists. I'm kind of not submerged in a group right now, and I miss it.
Yeah, right. Yeah, me too. Somewhat. I don't really have a chance to really speak to someone face to face, even prior to COVID. Like,
Yeah.